Are we live? We're live.
We are live.
Yes, again. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning, Bertie. Keep it on the right side.
Yeah,
hello.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for watching, joining us, listening to us today on the Business Funsize Live. 10 minutes of Q&A every Friday at 10 a.m. So, Debbie, what are we talking about today?
This morning we're talking about kind of building relationships, strategic partnerships, why this is all really important. But before we go into that, I just wanted to say that was a seamless introduction there, Bertie. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, Debbie. Teamwork makes the dream work.
super professional. So yeah, and I brought this up because last week we were talking about building recurring revenues.
Yes.
And lots of stuff around that. So go back and watch that if you're interested in building recurring revenues. And for me, a lot of the business opportunities I've had or the sales that I've made have been due to building relationships, those one-to-one relationships with people, stakeholders, different business owners. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about how that comes about, how you can build those relationships, how important they are to your business, and kind of give some examples of things that have helped me in my business.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's a very underrated part of business, building relationships, and sometimes it can often be skipped with the view that, well, you know, these relationships takes time, and relationships technically don't scale, and I need loads and loads of customers, so how do I build relationships with them all? But, you know, no one's saying that you have to, you know, be taking people out for dinner and jumping into bed with them necessarily. You know, building relationships, it's all about forming that connection, and there is so many ways that you can do that. So that's what we're going into, but we're onto the same page, right? Okay.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like, you're right. It can feel like, oh God, it's quite a slow build. I've got to build lots of relationships. Actually, I just want to build my business really quickly. But the thing that I've learned is that those relationships that I've made, it's about the long game, isn't it? Like, I might meet somebody, they might sign up to my newsletter. I might send them 3 years worth of emails and newsletters and talk to them at various events or, you know, conferences in London, and then they buy my stuff.
Yes.
So actually, it's worthwhile building those relationships over the long time. And even if you have a business where you sell lots of things, I work with a fabulous lady who runs a card business. It sells kind of birthday cards and that kind of thing, called The Curious Pancake. Really funny, great original cards.
Yeah.
And she will write a little handwritten note when she sends you her pack of cards. And that has meant that those customers have stayed with her as she's built a business over the years and have become recurring customers. So sometimes just a little bit of relationship building, even if it's e-commerce and you're selling lots of products, those little things mean that those customers become lifetime customers. And the value of that is enormous, isn't it? So thinking about how you build your business and how you can kind of nurture those relationships and build those relationships is key for that longevity.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's not just necessarily customers as well. It's like, you know, strategic partners and all of those sorts of people. Like, the more that, like, I'm very big on not recommending people for like kickbacks and things like that. As in, I would much, if I'm going to recommend somebody, it's because I know they're going to do a good job. Yeah. So, like, for example, I would recommend you because I know you would do a good job. But if I just met somebody at a networking meeting who's just thrust their business card, and that doesn't matter what it is, whether they're a business coach or a window, it's like, it doesn't, that's nothing. It's there's no relationship there whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, you know, the only times I will ever recommend someone is almost with the pretext of, look, well, I know of a plumber. I've never used them, but if you're desperate, you know, why don't you give them a try? But, you know, those relationships just make it so much better, because when you know something about it, when you've got that relationship, you can hand on heart recommend them. And that just looks good on everybody. It's you're then, you know, passing you're sharing your network because you know that there's going to be something there, and you can curate further relationships.
Yeah, definitely. I love it when people kind of refer me to other people, and, you know, I don't have a referral scheme, but I will send people bunches of flowers, you know, if they send people my way. And I'm really happy to send clients of mine or people that get in touch with me to people I know do a really good job, because I want their businesses to be successful as well. And I don't necessarily look for any like remuneration in that. I was just thinking about like, how do we build these strategic partnerships? Like, how do we build these relationships? And for me, networking has been one of the key elements of building my business. Just getting out, meeting people on Zoom, turning up at conferences, chatting to people. The more people that I've connected with, the bigger my reach, the more interesting opportunities have arised. And often people say, oh, well, I've gone to a network and I didn't enjoy it, or I don't enjoy networking. And I think maybe you didn't enjoy that network, but it doesn't mean that you don't enjoy networking. Try different ones out. Find your kind of community and people who are similar to you, because all those relationships that I've built always have paid back. And I always build relationships with people, not with a mind to wanting something back, but just genuinely, oh, what are you up to? Who are you? What's interesting to you? You know, I'm not like, oh, what can I get out of this? Like, I know that I've met people and they've listened to me for 2 seconds and then gone, not worth it, and kind of almost turn their back. And I find that like, oh God, it's just so awful. Like actually just building genuine relationships with people, being interested in people pays off massively in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really does. Now, it was just that you were just making me then think back to our first meeting. So I was speaking at a conference that you were attending, but we were speaking then after at the pub. And I thought, you know what, this woman really knows her shit. So then when I was then starting a business that was similar, the first person that I thought of was you. And that's because we'd had that banter in the pub, we'd formed that relationship.
Yeah.
And that's then naturally progressed into the stuff that we're now collaborating on. So, that all comes from, if you hadn't have taken the time to, speak to me after the conference, or if you hadn't have gone to that networking drinks after, these 10 at 10s would never have existed. It all comes from that. It's just taking that time out, isn't it, to just go and make the effort and speak to people.
Yeah, it's massive. And that I've got so many examples of that. And I did I tallied up just out of interest. So I run a network called the Blue Stocking Society, and I set that up with a couple of other women because I couldn't find a network that I liked in Nottingham. So I was like, right, well, I'm going to set up my own one then. You can do that. Anybody can do that. You don't need permission to do that kind of thing. And I tallied up how much money I'd made out of the connections. It was about £250,000,
really?
Just based on that network alone. The individuals I've met, the contacts, the projects I got involved in, the one-to-one clients I've got out of that. And I had no idea that it was that valuable. Literally just going and meeting a group of women once a month for tea and coffee equaled £250,000 in revenue. So I think you can't underestimate the value of putting time into those relationships. Like it can really make a big difference.
And I think that's it. If you can find a way to, so because you're then running that network essentially, you're far more memorable, I suppose, than anybody else. But it's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, it does work in my favour.
It does. Now, I've given this advice to people before who go to networking meetings. Like if you go to networking meetings where people do talks or presentations and things like that, it might be a little bit out of your comfort zone, but put yourself forward and go and do that and just speak, because then you are front and center. You completely then own that networking meeting for that period of time. So if you've got those opportunities within networks that you're already in, take them. It might be a little bit more preparation for you, and you might be nervous about it. But if you can do that, that is so much more effective than just showing up and just, chatting rubbish to people. You always have to go to networking meetings with some sort of strategy, but equally not going with expectations that you're going to get results from day one. Networking meetings is a much longer game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that like nerves thing of, God, I've got to go and speak to people, or I've got to put myself out there. Like, I get that. I used to run a networking event called First Tuesday. And for the first 2 years, I used to have to get up on the stage with a microphone and antenna and go, woo, and introduce the speakers and stuff. I had to have a pint of beer every time before I got on stage, because I was so nervous about talking in front of people. And I had all these self-limiting beliefs. So I could only do it with a pint of beer. So you might look at people and think, oh, they look really confident, but they'll have worked through some of those confidence stuff as well. The nerves, the feeling like, I don't know what I've got to say. Everybody's human, and that's the thing. And everybody wants to be loved, and everybody's feeling nervous equally as you. And I know it's difficult to bite down those nerves, but maybe if you need a beer to make yourself feel okay, then do that. I now get to this stage where I can talk in front of people and I don't have to have a beer, which is great. As a university lecturer, I'm not always pissed. Whatever you need to do to make yourself feel okay and comfortable in those situations, because it's so worth it. It's so worth it. You just don't know where those relationships are going to go in the long term.
Exactly. And there's gin in my cup. So yeah, I've followed your advice. Yeah, we're going live. I need that Dutch coach too.
It's like 10 in the morning and you're having a gin. I love it. Well, we've got a comment there from Siobhan. Let's have a look. So she says, I find this element so difficult as I'm not great at managing relationships generally, but it gets so lonely without others. Yeah, it really does. I'm not that great at managing relationships either. I cannot remember people's names, which is a terrible, terrible disability to have, because everybody knows my name and I don't. I'm like, and sometimes I have to run into the toilet and like search through Instagram or my emails to like remember what their name is, to do that. And I can get really bogged down in my own stuff, but I might think once a month, oh, who do I need to reach out to? So you could just create an afternoon once a month where you're just like, right, this is my connecting couple of hours, because I know that I don't think about that outside of those couple of hours, and I'm just going to fire off a few emails and go, how are you? Hope you're right. Or saw you do this on Instagram, or blah, 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 blah. That's all it takes. So it could just be as little as just finding a couple of hours once a month to just reconnect with some of those people, and just keep that relationship going. And obviously, if you've got email marketing, I mean, you're the daily email king. That's a way to build relationships. That's such a good way to build relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I find emails have been really, really good for me, because there's no there's no real expectation on. I'm not trying to sell necessarily through those emails, and they're very random. I literally think of the topic on the day rather than a typical sort of sales funnel. Siobhan, am I saying that name right?
Yeah, Siobhan.
I knew someone once, and I called them Sayaban for ages until I actually realised that I was saying it wrong.
No, that's not how you say it in Ireland. So Siobhan says, nice idea. Feels less pressure than constant. Yeah, exactly. It's not like, we've got to be waking up in the morning and building these relationships with all of these people. Just putting aside some time, and it's like, that's my relationship building time. Because just putting effort in, it could be an email once in a blue moon to just say, I'm thinking of you. That just makes so much more difference, because we all want to feel like people are thinking of us, don't we? When people send me an email, I'm like, they thought about me, they're caring about me, and that makes me like them even more. So yeah, it could just be something that you do for just a couple of hours a month.
Yeah, and I've got no context around your question, but I'm just going to go back when you said that you find it difficult managing relationships generally. Like, what you can do to start with, and you can apply this method to anything. Don't think about relationships. Think about managing a relationship, as in the singular. So if you find that you can't manage them at scale, focus on just maybe once, and actually maybe looking at maybe one ideal customer, one relationship that maybe you feel can be a little bit better. Do that, get that right, and then repeat it. And that's it. And then that's the way to scale. But sometimes we can overwhelm ourselves by thinking, I've got all of these relationships, I'm all of these group chats or whatever, and all of these networking meetings. Just focus on one thing, get that right, and then it will get better over time. And you can apply that to literally anything. When I go back to like our first live, I've been trying to convert these to a podcast for ages, and I was watching the first one, and I just messaged Debbie and was like, actually, we're all right now. Watching the first one, I just felt we were really wooden and it didn't really flow correctly. But, we did it once, and then we just practiced, and we're doing it almost a year now. So we should have got a little bit better.
Have we been doing it for a year?
September we started, so it's not, maybe September, October. It's coming up to a year. We'll have to have a year anniversary.
We will have to have a year anniversary. That's pretty exciting. Who knows where the time goes? That's super important. And like, you might build a relationship with somebody and then do a Friday morning live like we're doing. And, I don't know, I've got involved in social enterprises. All the lecturing at university has come out of like relationship building. The social enterprise that I launched this year has come out of relationship building. Like, I'm waiting news on a big contract that's come out of relationships that I've built over time. Like, this stuff does pay off. People will remember you if you show up, and you don't have to be on their backs all the time. Like, hello, how are you? It's just once in a blue moon. Just knowing that keeping that ball rolling makes a big difference. So have we dusted off building relationships? We've done it.
Yeah. I was just some of the feedback that I've had recently is just that the things that people have enjoyed by working with me is just those tiny interactions, those little touch points, the occasional messaging, just asking how their business is. How was the idea that we discussed? You know, how's it coming along? And people have like fed back saying that that's the sort of stuff that they're not used to having, especially when you work on your own. Just someone coming and checking in. So those things are really useful. Small interactions. It doesn't have to be big. Just showing people that you care, really, and you know, being genuine about it. And if you don't care, don't message them.
If you don't like them, it's fine. You don't need to build a relationship with people that are a bit icky. David's just said, I found since hosting the Volta Blue Mastermind sessions have helped massively to build so many new connections. Yeah, exactly. That's a great example of kind of hosting a networking thing, inviting people to come in, doing that monthly, showing up. And that's maybe like a couple of hours a month. And that means that suddenly your network is expanded. And the other thing is, like we touched on at the beginning, people will refer people to you. So the more people you know, the more referrals you can get, the more word of mouth you can get. And as somebody who teaches digital marketing, word of mouth is still one of the best forms of marketing out there. Just other people telling other people about you. So the wider you can cast that net, the more of that you get. And it's kind of free marketing in a way, isn't it? Word of mouth.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
And that's it. So I think we've come up to time. That's it. You were trying to finish me earlier, and then we've carried on for another minute. There we go. 10 minutes is actually 16 minutes and 53 seconds. But it's been a pleasure as always, Debbie. So we'll announce next week's 10. We don't know the subject yet, otherwise we'd say it now. We just make it up as we go along.
And this is the thing. Everybody's making everything up as they go along. And isn't that a beautiful, joyous thing to realise? Just go with it. Just go with the flow, guys.
Just go with it. You'll figure it out. Well, it's been a pleasure yet again, Debbie. And I will see you next Friday for the next episode of Business Funsize Live. See you at 10 o'clock. Bye.